What's good, YouTube? Today I wanted to show y'all a tutorial on a side bald mid taper on a waver. I'm gonna show y'all a little bit of details on the back taper, but not too much. But without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and get into it. Alright, so the first thing that you wanna make sure you do is comb or brush the hair thoroughly with the growth pattern. Whichever direction the hair that the client has is going, you always want to comb or brush that direction around the entire head. Make sure you comb it through and through so you can kind of get all the hairs to fall in this natural direction or whatnot. If his hair was a tad bit shorter, I'll probably brush it out, but the brush is not going to grab all the hair like the comb would at this length. So you want to make sure you comb it all the way through. The next thing you want to do is kind of establish your length on the top of the client's head. For this specific haircut, we're going to use a 1.5 blade detachable. You can use a 1.5 guards, up to you. I prefer to use the 1.5 blade for the all evens. I think that there's just a cleaner cut. And just like you combed the same direction the hair grew, just like you comb the same direction that the hair falls, you want to cut in that same manner, in that same direction that the hair falls and the hair grows. You want to do a thorough cut. You want to make sure there's no patches. Also, you want to make sure the blade is all the way flush down to the head so the haircut can be as thorough as possible. You don't want certain spots being darker than other spots. You don't want certain spots being lighter than other spots. You want it to be as thorough as possible. And always remember to always follow that growth pattern. That growth pattern makes the drastic difference. Once you start going against the growth pattern or going against the direction that the hair grows, you start to see patches and you start to create light spots. Just kind of make sure you're in that spinner of the head. Most people has that consistent spinner, and you kind of want to just cut the hair with the direction that spinner is laying that hair down. Like so. And make sure your shavings are clean, thorough. You're cutting the entire head one even length. For this video, it's the 1.5, like I stated before. But you always want to make sure when you're cutting an all even haircut, you want just that, an all even haircut. This will end up being a side taper haircut, but as far as establishing the length, you always want everything even. You get it to where everything is even as much as possible, it creates a much better foundation for the overall look, the overall result. Anytime you're cutting hair and providing a service, you gotta always understand that the details matter. Even when you think clients aren't paying attention, they're paying attention. So just always keep that in mind. As far as that all even, smooth, all the hairs being laid down establishment, you might come across hairs that's sticking up like this. And continue to just keep combing that hair the same direction it grows and continue to keep cutting. You always want to make sure you do a thorough job. You focus on doing a thorough job, making sure the job is complete. The haircut will always come out clean, fresh, and most clients appreciate you taking that extra time out on their haircut just to make sure it's as clean as it possibly could be. You don't ever want to give a bad service. Next, you want to grab your spritz, your hold, whatever you use. I personally use Design Essentials spritz. That's what I'm using right now. And you want to spread along the arc of that side taper, or the initiation of that side taper in that general area. Reason being, that spritz is going to hold that hair in place. It's going to hold it down in position to make sure all the follicles kind of stay in one area. And it'll help with a cleaner lineup, a cleaner line, a cleaner arch, all of that above. This client specifically wants the bald medium taper with the ice pick sideburns, if you will. So you kind of want to, personally, I like to establish the outline with haircuts like this, especially like specific kind of tapers and stuff like that. When you want to keep the arch, you want to keep the curve, it's always better to establish the lineup and fill in the taper versus doing a taper and having the lineup chase the taper. You're trying to put the lineup where the hair is tapered at, and sometimes it don't always align. You'll end up pushing a line back. You'll end up making the taper lopsided, having to go back in and match the other side with the initial side for the taper. And it's just, it's just more work when you do it that way. So specifically for a taper like this, I want to do the lineup first. I want to establish that foundation, put that curve with the ice pick sideburn and whatnot before I go into detail with initiating the taper. And you kind of want to just kind of keep going over that line just to redefine the line, reestablish it, make it a lot more cleaner, a lot crisp, not as straggly. Wild hairs is not all over the place. The cleaner that it looks as far as the foundation is concerned, the better. So you always want to make sure you have a real good foundation. That's most important. As you can see here, I'm kind of going over the lines over and over and over to kind of get it to that barber eye that I prefer to have. And sometimes it might take that, and clients appreciate that, Take that extra time to put those details in, man. Them details matter. It doesn't matter how fast you cut, you want to give a great service. You want people to come back. You don't want nobody to enter you into the NASCAR Barber Hall of Fame because you know how to cut fast. That don't always win you the lifetime relationships with clients, if you know what I mean. So I can tell there's kind of like a tad bit off right there. So that's why I keep trying to go back in and define it a little more in depth, make it a little more cleaner, if you will. Now I'm gonna go ahead and start balding out my taper. You want to initiate the taper with that C-cup kind of shape, kind of give you the parameters of where you want to stay in. It also lets you know how high you want that blend to be, how high you want that taper fade to be established. Next, you wanna open the clippers all the way open and kind of go up maybe like a 1/4 inch where you put that initial bald line at. You can do a 1/2 inch, you can do a 1/4 inch, it just depends on the person. I'm gonna do a 1/4 inch because we working in such a tight space, tight area. So you want to do that, and then just above where that sideburn is, you kind of want to do the same thing. Kind of go up a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch, because you want to blend that sideburn in just like you blending that taper in. So then you want to close your clippers halfway, like so. And that same area where you open the clippers and faded 1/4 of an inch up, and on the sideburns, you want to go halfway up. Halfway up on that area on the sideburns, and halfway up on that area where you made that initial line. Yeah, right up in that area. So go halfway up in that area and keep the blade as consistent as possible. You don't want to go too high, you don't want it to be too low, but just kind of stay halfway, you know, and just fade on out. Then you want it to be almost all the way open, just a level under all the way open, and then you can go all the way to that line without going past that line. So after you go halfway up, you want to open the clipper up almost all the way and kind of go all the way up, and once you get to that line, scoop out. Use the corner of the clippers, you get the best results. You don't want to cut too much hair off. That's the safest way to be. And you do the same thing with that sideburn, you know. With the clippers almost all the way open, you just kind of want to go all the way up to the top of that line and scoop out, just to keep it consistent. So then you want to close the clippers all the way like this. And then you want to kind of flick at that bottom initial C-cup taper line. Kind of flick that out with the corners of your clippers. Just the first couple of teeth. Kind of consistently flick out. And you do the same thing at the top of that sideburn on that ice pick too as well. Because it has a light line as well on the top of that ice pick. So you kind of want to, how I'm pulling that skin down to me, you want to stretch that skin out to kind of blend it as thorough as possible. Using the corners of the clippers like so. And just consistently just keep going over that area until that mirror is showing you that there's no more lines. Till you fully blend out that bottom line. Or almost blend it out. Sometimes the trimmers close all the way, don't always blend it out. So it just depends on how you have them adjusted or whatnot, stuff like that. So basically what you want to do is you want to open the clippers halfway. And you kind of want to flick out all the way up to that line. You know? Act as if you're going all the way to the line, but not really, just under that line, and flick out. Flick out. Continue to keep flicking out. And you want to do that in the same area of that taper. You want to go all the way up on that area of that taper that we blended in. And flick out. Next up, you want to go ahead and grab your 1.5 guard. And you're supposed to be hitting the areas after the area you just blended and the area after the area you just blended for the sideburn as well too. So you want the blades all the way closed, and you kind of just want to use the corner of the clippers, kind of make that C cup. But this time you're probably going up maybe an inch or so. It's a much bigger area, much broader blending window, so you're able to get away with, you know, going up a little higher, but still maintaining that C cup kind of finish, if you will. You want it to be real apparent that it's a medium taper, you know, so. And you want all of that hair to kind of be the same length. You always want to do a thorough job, you know. You never want repeat steps because you wanted to skip steps or whatnot. So I always do a thorough job. And like I've stated previously, the client will appreciate that. Then you want to grab your half guard, 0.5 or half, and you want to close your clipper halfway, like so. And you want to go up halfway in that area and just kind of flick out. And you want to do the same thing with the sideburns, halfway in the area and flick out. Don't dig though, always flick out. You don't want to bring that line up. Still trying your best to use the corner of the clippers when you're flicking out. Like so. And don't be afraid to comb as you go to lay that hair down so you can kind of know what you're working with throughout the haircut and throughout the different strokes that you're using. Make sure you're going halfway up thoroughly in that C-cut region. Then you want to kind of not open the clippers up all the way, but almost all the way. The level right above all the way. And kind of, again, go all the way up to that area you started at 1.5. Just before you get to that region, the end of that region, you want to flick out. Doesn't apply in the sideburn because it's not a blowout on the sideburn, it's a blowout on the taper. So you want to kind of go up and flick out. You don't want to go up and dig and make like a harder line. You don't want to make the taper more difficult than what it actually has to be. Just go up almost to that line and flick out. Sometimes you might have to go over areas more than a few times, but whatever it takes to get that overall result, flick out. Flick out. Take that extra time. Don't rush. Still maintaining cutting with the corner of those clippers. The corner of those clippers is going to be your money. And that's any haircut. That's not just tapers. That's any haircut. You know, always flick out. Now, you want to go ahead and close the clippers halfway. And kind of go up. All the way up. But flicking out. The area you was just blending almost all the way open, you want to blend that same area with the same consistency halfway closed. And halfway closed is because it picks up any discrepancy hairs that may have been missed when you were flicking out that area with the clippers almost all the way open. Same deal with that sideburn, you know, you want to go over that area thoroughly. You know what I mean? Now you want to take that guard off with the clippers all the way open. Still using the first couple teeth of that clipper, and you just want to flick at that bottom line, you know? Kind of like where you see the light little weight at the top of the sideburn, you want to kind of flick at that. Same deal at the base of that taper. You kind of want to use the corners and just flick at those lines, you know, kind of work that transition a little more cleaner, a little more precise, a little more defined, a little more established, you know. Keeping that same consistency, you'll see the results. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm flicking out at that bottom line. As careful as possible. You kind of want to hit that weight, continue using the corners of the clippers with that lever close, kind of doing that detail work, if you know what I mean. You know, you kind of just gauge it as you go. Open and close the clippers if need be. Dark spots, stuff like that. Going over certain areas over and over until you get that established look. As you can see, it's still like a light line there. So I'm gonna use some clipper over comb, you know, just to lightly kind of hit that bolt. And every time I cut, I'm gonna make sure I comb that hair down so I can see where the hair is falling at. And just kind of hitting that weight of that line that you see to kind of make that taper transition a lot more smoother. Use that clipper over comb. Still using the corner of the clippers. If you can help it, clipper over comb. As you can see, like that taper is coming together. Still using that corner of those clippers. Opening and closing the lever. And you do the same exact steps on the other side of the client's head. After you did your taper successfully, this is what it will look like. I did the back off line because I wasn't really trying to harbor on the back taper. I just wanted to show y'all a mid bald taper on the sides. So just like we did on the side of the taper, you get your spritz and you want to spread directly on your client's hairline while covering his face so nothing gets in their eyes. And again, you spray spritz again to keep the hair in place, hair tight, clean, laid down. Then you use your blow dryer to kind of dry that spritz to kind of keep everything held in place. Combing as you go, kind of make sure all the hair is completely laid down. And then you go in, whatever trimmers you use, and start your edge up, or your line up, whatever you prefer to call it. I always, for some apparent reason, like to start in the middle because for most people, that's where the highest point of their hairline is always going to be, is the middle. So if you start in the middle and work your way to the left or right, whatever you choose to, it'll be more so of the fact you're keeping the hairline natural and you're basically just catching the corners up on the middle of the hairline. You're basically matching the left side of the hairline, or I'm sorry, the left side of the lineup and the right side of the lineup to the middle part of the lineup. And you want to be prestigious when you're doing that lineup. You kind of want to fall down on top of the hair, if you know what I mean. You don't want to like push up. You don't want to kind of dribble and draw on the hairline. You want to fall down on it. You want to fall completely down on it and drag the clippers lightly because you don't want to break skin. You don't want to leave harsh red lines and harsh scar marks and whatnot. Because again, you want to always give a good quality service and you want your clients to keep on coming back. Keep that same consistency throughout the whole entire hairline when you're doing a lineup. Because the ultimate goal is to match the sides with the center. Once you've done that, you know you've done the ultimate lineup. Then I'm just come on over here to this right side and basically just match that right side to the center like we discussed. You know, you want to stay consistent when you're doing these steps. That way your haircuts can come out clean on a consistent basis. And you're not all over the place. Making sure those curves match each other's sides. And don't be afraid to use your comb to kind of match each side of the hairline so you can kind of know where you need to put those lines up. I remember being in barber school, they taught us to use the client's ears or use their eyebrows and even their comb. Or your comb, I'm sorry. All of these different things help with straight lines and different techniques with lining up your client. I was going to do the mustache and the facial hair and stuff like that, but I decided to go ahead and do that offline. Again, this video is not really about how to do a mustache or how to do a beard trim or how to do a goatee. I just strictly wanted to show y'all the side bald taper or side medium bald taper, however you like to put it, and just kind of give y'all just a basic tutorial on how to do that kind of service on a client, especially with waves. And you know, when you're lining up, you know, just keep on going over those lines, you know, making it as sharp as possible, making it as clean as possible, because you want those people to come back. Thank y'all for watching my video. And there you have it, people. A medium bald taper on the wavers. Y'all take care.